Hey, Asia, can you hear me? Hey, Val. Holla if you hear me. Hi, everybody. Check in with me. Let me know you can hear me and that my audio is good. Hello, my babysitter. Oh, you're not a babysitter anymore because you're grown. Oh, yes. So it is a snow day here in the Midwest. They canceled school yesterday, anticipating about 12 to 14 inches of snow, and we got it. And so today so the snow is supposed to taper off and then it's supposed to start back up. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we are expecting temperatures in the negative double digits. And I mean like negative 40 to 50 degrees. You heard me, 40, 50. Yep. So yesterday we went to church and I did all of my food shopping. I cooked yesterday and today. So made sure all the bills were paid, that we had cable and a phone and heat. Made sure everything was straight. Because I don't believe that the children will be back to school. I will be stunned if they go to school tomorrow. I'll be stunned if they go to school all week. That's how significant and extreme the weather is at the moment. But we're good. God is good. Heat is on. My children, however, won't let me be great, right along with their father. So my daughter, I think all of you know this, that my daughter likes to cook. And why did she just bring downstairs a homemade fudge brownie with homemade whipped cream? So in my family, everyone in my family cooks, particularly my mother's side of family. Alan's family cooks very well as well. The husband does. But in my family, one of the first things you learn is how to make homemade whipped cream. It's something that I think every child in my family can do. So of course I give that tradition to the daughter, and I think her whipped cream is actually better than mine. And she put it on the daggone brownie. I'm telling you, man, my people like me fluffy, but I rebuke the Satan. I'm going to get on the elliptical today. Even though I can't go anywhere, God saideth, and I will get on it, said elliptical, in the name of sweet baby Jesus. I will do that. So I'm gonna wait for a few more of you to join. We got about a minute or so left. I hope where the rest of you live that you are safe and you're warm. I think on the East Coast where I'm from, you guys are about to hit the same amount of weather, not necessarily the same amount of snow, but you're about to get it. So, but it's been great. Everybody's been home. I'm getting my timer together. Everyone's home and they are in their pajamas. Everybody slept late. I didn't have to cook because I did most of my cooking yesterday. So people are just kind of doing a free-for-all in the fridge and all that great stuff. So I can't complain. If I did, nobody would listen. That's the truth. So cancel when the timer ends. What? So my thing says end. I ended, and then it didn't want to stop. So now it's getting started. So happy Monday. Happy Monday to all of you. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hope that you are comfortable. Those of you on the East Coast, sorry you had to go to work today. Those of us in my current town in the Midwest, nobody has gone anywhere today. So my subject matter today is about my daggone kids. I know. I'm not talking about myself or the husband. I'm talking about them crumb snatching derelicts of mine. I don't really like them, which is why I think the daughter made me brownies today. The husband and I weren't speaking to them for a day or so because, hey, Miss Loretta, they don't like community service. Yep, my kids don't like community service. And the husband and I are disgusted that they don't like community service at all. Like, they complain. They talk about, like, we'll say stuff like, oh, you have to sing with church, or, MLK is a day on of service, not a day off. You have to prepare meals or clean up or do a playground or tutor or, a plethora of things you can do to serve your community. And my children always start with, ugh. Always, ugh. What are we going to do and what? This is how I think my kids talk. What are we going to do and what? What are we going to do? I don't want to do it. I get that. I get the sucking of the teeth and the rolling of the eyes. And it's my fault. And it's the husband's fault. It is. It just hit us that our kids ain't never been poor before. Never. They've never been poor. They don't know what it's like to struggle. They don't know what it's like to need anything. They don't understand what it's like to go without, miss, don't have. They don't know what that's like at all. At all. They don't know what it's like to get government cheese. Not government, because that's not what we called it. Government, 2 syllables, government. They don't know what it's like to physically cut the cheese or pick, because where I lived, you picked it up at a church. The cheese, the rice, and the butter in blocks that look like bricks. They don't know what that's like. They have no idea how demeaning it felt to go to the corner store from where you lived and use Monopoly money to pay for your food. They don't know what that feels like. They don't know what it's like to be without heat. They don't know what it's like to not have food. They don't know. Now, we always had food, but sometimes you had breakfast food for dinner because that was all you had. They don't know what it's like to not have electricity. God forbid we don't have AC in our house. Central air. My children went without central air for one day, 24 hours. You would have thought my children were enslaved. When I tell you that my children were like, oh, it's so hot. It's so hot. They have no idea what it's like not to have central air. Back then, I'm talking about before oscillating fans. You know how, when I was growing up, oscillating fans didn't become a rave until I think I was a teenager, right? I'm talking about them big square fans that sat in the center of usually a hallway, right? So it could hit all the rooms, where you had to take a bath and spread eagle while your mother poured baby powder all over your body, and you were in your underoos and you slept like this. My kids have no idea what that feels like. None. And you were fine. You know who got the air conditioning unit in my house? My parents. Because they worked. And that's what my mother said. I work. I'm not going to be hot in my house. And you had to ask to go in their room with the door shut so that you could have some of that central air. My kids have no idea what that feels like. And it's my fault. It's totally my fault. They have no idea what it's like to struggle. And I started thinking about that. The husband and I were talking about it. Perhaps if they knew how to struggle, if we had taken things from them, because, as each generation, right, we want better for our children, right? We don't want our children to struggle. So we do everything we can so that they don't, right? We make sure they go to all the activities and they have nice clothes and they go to, they have the latest iPhone Elemental P and the doctor something beats by somebody and the Uggs and, all of those things. They turn on a light and miraculously electricity comes on and there's water and there's food. They can get a snack at any time. They don't have to worry about what's in the refrigerator, what's not in the refrigerator. If they want something, they put it on a little board and then miraculously later that day when they're home from school, the food appears. They have no idea what it's like to not have. And it is completely my fault. Completely my fault. And now I have to figure out how to change it. I do. I have to figure out how to undo what I've been doing. Because perhaps if they struggled just a little bit, that maybe they'll appreciate what they do have and they'll be benevolent to others. That's really how I feel. Like you have no clue. And both my husband and I come from pretty humble beginnings. We come from a family of blue collar workers who worked hard. And there's nothing wrong with that. We learned hard work. We learned integrity. You learned how to make things do. You knew the value of money. You understood that, to be appreciative for what you had. Now, everyone in your area, everyone in your neighborhood had the same things. So while you might have been poor socioeconomically, everybody had what you had. There was a sense of community. We actually talked about this in church yesterday. There was a sense of community. You weren't the only one struggling. Everybody was struggling. But we all felt the need to help one another. And when one was winning, we all were winning, right? You encourage each other. It's not the same. And I realize that I am raising selfish, entitled children. I am, not intentionally, but that's exactly what I'm doing. I wonder if I showed my children what we do with our money and how quickly it goes, the moment it gets into the account and all the bills we pay, I wonder if they would still feel the way they do about that Rice Krispie treat. Or not being able to have sushi. What kids eat sushi? You know what I'm saying? Or will be a little bit more compassionate when we go feed the homeless. I am really struggling with how just incredibly selfish my kids are. And I'm struggling because it's my fault. It is totally my fault. And I wonder if I took the time and took things from them, no, we can't do that this week. No, we can't do it. No, you can't have those lessons, or you can't go to such and such, or you can't eat Chick-fil-A. I wonder if I do that more frequently, how that would change the dynamics of my children's thought process. I wonder how that would change their perception. And they're good kids, they're not, I don't believe, they're not, they have their moments, but I'm trying to figure out how to better get them accustomed to service, to serve others. And I wonder if we're so far removed from civil rights and slavery, because it's so historic to them, they have no concept. I wonder if, I wasn't that far removed from the civil rights era. I wasn't, my mother and her sisters were teenagers. So you could still hear stories about the injustices of people, people of color. And you still see it now, but we're all still kind of doing well. And I have been struggling with how incredibly self-serving my kids are. I did them a disservice. I really did. I did such a disservice to them. And I'm really trying to figure out how to fix it. Now, I will say there are some things I don't bend on. The husband and I don't bend on. Like, for example, the big son was working last summer. And so once he started working, we started really talking about how to manage his money and what he should spend his money on. And we made him pay for a couple of things, like, your phone bill is $15 a month. Now, his phone bill really isn't $15 a month, but you got to get used to paying for something. So I was like, look, you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay for your own haircuts. Why should I pay for them? You're going to pay for them. And you're going to do your own school shopping this year. So for me, that was an entry point to managing his money and taking care of himself. Independence, but not necessarily service. Because he was serving himself, right? So how do I then translate that so that they feel good about serving others? That there's not this, my biggest concern is that my children will lack humility and that they become elitist. I believe that if you would just take the time and realize how blessed you are, that should change your trajectory on how you deal with people and how you handle life in general. That everything you have is a blessing. It's not luck. It's hard work, dedication, and gifts from God. I really do believe that. And I'm struggling because I was so annoyed. So my children did community service, MLK Day, and then they did community service with church on Saturday. 2 of them did. And one of them was just so incredibly ungrateful. And thankfully, I was not present when all this was going down. The husband dealt with it. But, just in particular with my 3 children, first of all, had it not been for community service, you wouldn't be here. All 3 of my children are adopted. All 3 of them through the state, not special, not through private adoption, through special needs foster care. They all came through the foster care system, all of them. And so some of the programs that they're eligible for are purely based on the fact that they were foster kids. So if not for anything else, had it not been for those social services and those programs and people caring about you, you wouldn't be here. And so I'm particularly sensitive because of how my children became my children. And I just don't understand how incredibly ungrateful they are. And I'm like, dude, really? You don't? And we're not talking about hours of community service. We're talking at best, we probably do, any activity we do probably takes about 2 hours or less. In this particular scenario, they were singing, I believe at a senior citizen home. They were singing. Maybe an hour and a half, maybe. And my husband was like, would it kill you to sing God's praises to someone who may really need to hear your voice right now? Would it kill you? Don't cost you anything to be kind or to perform service. It doesn't cost you anything, time. But you have no idea what that person is getting from what you're doing. It doesn't always have to be about you. Why does it have to be about you? It's not always about you. It's just not. It's not. And I am afraid I created a monster. And I got to fix it quickly. So, the husband and I go into action right away. So, they're home right now. they're going through their toys and sorting them and determining what they're going to give away. And the husband said, you have to give one toy away that you really love. And if you could have seen their faces, they were like, you have to give a toy away that you really love. You can't just give junk to people, something you don't want anymore. You have to give something away that you know somebody else would love just as much as you do. And, you know, the husband and I take it for granted because we do community service everywhere, you know, in church, we belong to civic organizations, other organizations, you know, we were doing stuff at work. You know, we really take service seriously. Now, we don't do all things, you know, we're involved in a plethora of things, but we enjoy service. We enjoy it. Like, it's not even for me, it's just a constant reminder of where I've been and where I am now and where I could be. You know, just having some compassion for someone who at a very hard, you know, having a very hard time. It is humbling. You know, for me, it's not about, I'm doing this for you, look at me, look how great I am. It really is a reminder of what my life used to be. And a variety of different things, you know, as I mentioned, I came from very humble beginnings. So I know what it's like not to have heat in my house. I know what it's like to buy food with food stamps. I know what that feels like. I have been in homes and situations where there was violence or alcoholism or drug abuse, not just in my home, but family members' homes. It's a blessing. And I'm angry at my kids, but I think I'm more angry at myself because I didn't see it. I wanted so badly to give my children everything I didn't have that I didn't realize the blessing on why I didn't have it. Because it truly was a blessing in that, right? You have a better understanding and appreciation for the things you do get. And in my case, how real God is, right? Because there are so many different situations, and I have so many different family members who did not get out of those situations, who only repeated the cycle, right? And then there are some of us who didn't, who were able to prevail in spite of, who broke the cycle. And so I guess I need to do a better job of showing my children what it feels like to struggle. And I don't mean sending them out in the wild with a $5 food stamp and a list of things to get. You know, I don't quite mean it that way, but just have more of a sense of what your life could be. What you, I guess, how later in life, you know, what kind of life you could lead if you don't make the right choices, or if you don't have the right, you're not positioned correctly, or you've just been dealt a bad hand, or you don't have nepotism, you know, or things are just not, you weren't dealt that hand, and how you can still survive and be happy. You know, I think so many of us were so much more happier when we didn't have so much stuff, right? Because you had each other. You knew that you were loved and cared for, and you knew whatever happened, as the West Indians say, tomorrow soon come. You know, there's always tomorrow, Lord willing, right? There's always tomorrow. But I struggle with what I'm going to teach my children and what I'm constantly teaching them. You're absolutely right, Jelly. Balance. balance. How do you give them the balance of giving them, enough of what they need and want, but still providing and making sure they appreciate it? How do you do that? So that's what I'm going to be working on, trying to figure out how to continually provide the balance for the babies, because I don't like what I see, and it's my fault, and now I need to fix it. All right, well, that's my rant for today, folks. Go upstairs and make my children eat oatmeal. I don't care what, man, that government cheese, on that macaroni and cheese, I don't care what nobody says. That stuff, it took a while to melt. But when it melted, macaroni and cheese was fire with government cheese. Fire! Like the Ohio players. What? Anyway, I gotta go. Be safe out there. Talk to you soon, and we'll see you next week. All right? Bye, y'all.